One of the most anticipated basketball shoes of the year is finally here on our table. We're going to take a look at them. This is the 741 Performance Rover. Wow, smell like spray paint. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Chris. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. Today, we got a detailed look and breakdown on Jaylen Brown's first sneaker with himself. Like, this is his own brand, self-funded. Again, this is the 741 Performance Rover. And before we deep dive into these guys, we do have a quick word from today's sponsor, which is the good folks over at Sole Premise. Now, in case you've never heard of Sole Premise, they actually offer luxury bags in a wide variety of styles. So whether you're into crossbody bags, duffels, performance duffels, day pack style backpacks, or extra large backpacks for a little bit of a longer trip, they have got you covered. All of their stuff is also TSA approved. It fits in the overhead compartments and underneath the seat in front of you. And yes, I have tried this myself. They are the only bags that I use when I travel. If you're interested in trying out Sole Premise, there is a direct link down below in our description box. Don't forget to use the promo code that you see on the screen right here. It will save you a lot. Now, with that being said, this is the box. Nothing crazy. It's just an all black box. It's got 741 on the top. Inside, this is something that I'm actually just personally getting tired of seeing. The future of performance. It's like every new brand says that. You know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like, can we not, like, can you just put out good product, prove it before you say it? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I feel. You don't agree?
Oh no, we're like in the future now. I heard George Jetson was like just born.
What?
From the Jetsons?
Man, you went off on a... What the hell are you doing back there?
Wait, I want to know his birthday exactly. He's actually a couple of years old. His birthday was July 31st, 2022.
Why is your brain on this? What the fuck is going on?
We're talking about the future, babe. Flying cars. Let's get there.
I was not in that general direction. Okay, I know that I said the word future, but let's stay present.
To add to that, I read this weird thing that talked about how the Flintstones are actually after the Jetsons.
We're still on this.
Which is why they have like cars and phones and music players. Like they're trying to get back the things that they used to have.
Really? People are trying to say that they devolved instead of evolved?
Well, it's kind of like, say, The Walking Dead, anything with zombies where like our world goes back
Explain the dinosaurs.
Hey.
Prehistoric times. These guys.
Anyways, tell me about this shoe.
I was trying to.
741 is the future
of performance. Now, I will say that what I'm about to say, or anything that I say from here on forward in this review, is strictly constructive, right? So I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest. This is what I do in every single video. So I just wanted to let everybody know, just relax a little bit. We're talking about a product here. I'm going to let you guys know my thoughts on said product, not on the person, not on anything. You know what I mean? So with that being said, these are pretty inexpensive. Like for a brand new shoe, they're $200. I think the biggest mistake that Jaylen Brown made in making this company is specifically stating out loud that he was making a brand that was affordable, because it's not. So there's that. I will say the little small caveat of like that he was saying that he wanted to make things affordable and attainable for kids. That's cool. Yes, the kid's shoe is way more affordable, but still with what's in the product itself, it's not quite up to snuff. This is my main thing when we're talking about like competition in a space. If you're new in the space, you have to think about who's on top. The company that's on top right now is Nike. Am I saying that's good or bad? No, it's just a fact. Nike is still number one. Do they make the best products? I'll say right now, no. But when we're talking about affordability, name brand, awareness, just the overall consumer zeitgeist, like what your brain thinks is good, is the most popular thing, which would again be Nike. And with that, Nike has tons of retail space available, not just inside of big box stores like a Foot Locker, a Dick's Sporting Goods, and things like that. I'm talking about they got their own retail spaces, and with those retail spaces, they control their prices, such as their Nike factory stores and their Nike clearance stores. You can get a brand new pair of sneakers from Nike and Jordan for well under the $70 that the kids version of this shoe retails for. That's my main thing, is that right there is your competition. And I'm not talking about retail price. I'm talking about what are the base prices that you're going to be competing with, because you're trying to gain a customer. And that's the part where I think they slipped up on. I think that for what was done here, like first off, they have expenses within the product that maybe they could have cooled off on for the first one, but I understand why they wanted to do these things. So I appreciate that. But yeah, that's my initial kind of like impression, which is like you're competing in a space that's ultra competitive, and this person knows about competition, organization. They play in the NBA. They are an NBA champion. And so that's your main comp right now. It's not like whoever is playing against you in the finals. It's the big guys in the space, which is Nike, Jordan, and I don't think that what they've done here is going to be strong enough to really make a strong debut or impact in the space overall. With that being said, the shoes themselves were manufactured in Korea. That is a little bit more expensive than manufacturing them in some other place like China. And then on top of that, the shoes themselves, including the kid size, so both men's and kids, they come in half sizes, which is extremely expensive to do as a new company. We've talked about this many times before on this channel, but when you're opening up tooling molds for the midsole and the outsole, those are the main factors that is like going to be taking your budget. You know what I'm saying? Like that's going to be your biggest initial upfront cost. So most brands will just do whole sizes. They'll go like 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. This brand did not do that. They went straight up like 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5. That's fucking expensive. That's a mold per half size, emphasizing the expensive part. And I get that he's an NBA athlete. He's got a big ass contract and salary. That doesn't make up for the fact that he's trying to sell a good. You know what I mean? So that you still got to make profit. Now, with all of that being said, how is the product itself? It feels okay, you know what I mean? There's certain parts of it that I'm kind of like, okay, that's cool. You can improve on this. And there's other parts where I'm like, that should have been there no matter what. So the outsole is one of the things that I'm a little half and half on. First off, the traction pattern looks great. It feels like it's going to perform great. Will there be a performance review on this shoe? That's really up to you guys. If you guys support the videos, then we can keep doing the other videos for them. We can do the part 2, if you will. This is the initial breakdown. Then we can do how do they do, AKA the performance review. But basically the rubber itself is a full-on tread pattern. So we got from heel to toe, nothing's missing. The one thing that's interesting is that on their website, they say that the outsole is a proprietary blend. So the rubber that they're using is for them a proprietary blend of rubber. I just find it odd that like this is the way that it feels. So the way that it's feeling right now is that it will be really grippy and tacky on a court, which is great, but it's also like ultra soft. Outdoors, you could probably just say no to these, especially at that $200 price point. Indoors, I'm still wondering if they're going to be durable enough. So that's the one thing. Something to note though is that the outsole is super thick. So that's a part that I'm kind of like curious by. I'm like, why is the outsole so thick, but also feels like it's not very durable? So that's something that I find to be interesting. Again, I really want to take these on court and really see how they do. So hopefully you guys are interested in that as well and show that in the views and the likes and the comments and things like that. The things that the YouTube algorithm needs for engagement. Now the midsole is EVA. Nothing really fancy here. Pretty basic as far as the setup goes. The good news is that we are in the year 2025, not in whatever the hell you were talking about earlier. So today, foams are way better than they ever were when I was growing up in the 90s. So having an EVA setup isn't necessarily a bad thing. Is it as good as Zoom Air? Probably not, but I will say that they feel very good underfoot. And as we have all known over the last few years, that again, foams right now are probably better than they've ever been. And you could get away with doing an EVA setup or an eTPU or whatever it might be. So I think that this is something that is a decent addition to the sneaker itself. On top of that, they've taken extra steps to make them a little bit more comfortable from a step-in standpoint. So the Strobel is a nice foam Strobel. The insole is this guy right here. It's actually fairly dense. It looks like Ortholite, but it's not quite as open as Ortholite is, like that open cell foam. This has a little bit more heft to it. This actually feels good. I'm quite surprised by this. I'm borderline impressed. It's not a great insole, but it's better than what you get at other brands. And that leads me to one of the big things that's actually missing in the shoe, which seems to be torsion support. Most brands will put in at the very minimum a rectangle shaped bar like right here, and it's so that you don't over twist the shoe while you're making hard lateral cuts, steps, and changes of direction. And that's just not in the shoe. There's no shank plate or anything like that. So that's the one thing where I'm a little bit weary on. It might not affect somebody of my size, but if you're a little bit bigger than me, or maybe you're heavier than me, or maybe you just put more force on the shoe than someone like me, that could be an issue. Now, does Jaylen Brown wear this same exact product? I want to say yes, but I don't know for a fact, so I can't. For all we know, he has a torsion bar or a plate, or maybe he's got a special orthotic that does that for him, which is an option for something like this. You can obviously take out this insole, you can swap it out for a move insole, and that will help a little bit with that torsion aspect. But overall, the way that they feel underfoot is pretty good. I think that the things that they've done here are very smart. So they've got these cutouts where the flex grooves are, there's this giant hole in the heel, and all of that stuff adds for compression. So again, when you're having something basic sounding like EVA, even though the majority of the brands are using the same shit, they just call it something different. It's gonna make it feel a little bit more special than just basic foam. Now the upper is pretty interesting because it's multi-layered, so this is something that they didn't have to do, but they did. I don't know if this was for aesthetics or what, but either way, it's an interesting setup. You have a shoe and then you have this wrap over it, and the top layer is an engineered knit, so it's got a lot of structure and compression within it. It's definitely something that you feel right here at the top collar of the shoe. It does feel a little like more forgiving, I would say, for the forefoot section, but I also want to say that that's partially from the last itself. These have a really squared toe, so if you got like thick feet, this will probably be good for you. If you're like me and you like to feel something sitting a little bit closer to your foot itself without like all that extra dead space is what I like to call it, then maybe this won't be good for you. But if you wear thick socks, it could be like a good move, especially if you double sock it. All of these little, like, I don't know what you would call these, iridescent, reflective, I don't know, they're not really reflective, but they're just shiny. All these little dots all over the shoe. This is purely aesthetic. It's not really functional. It doesn't add support in any areas. This is one of those things too, like this one right here, like I feel like I could like rip this right off.
They're very those Nikes that you like from the 90s, the bug-eyed ones.
They look a little bit like those. Where'd they go? They're a little reminiscent of something like this, the Jason Kidd shoe, the Flight 5. You know, it is what it is. Whether he was inspired by this or not, I don't really care. But all I will say is that it doesn't feel as durable as maybe it should be. Now, what's underneath this engineered knit right here is a fairly basic shoe, especially design-wise. Like when you like roll this thing down, which is pretty hard to do. But when you roll it down, there's not much in there. There's like a lot of synthetics, there's textiles. There's some structure here in the back, which is nice. You can actually see that stuff. For what it is, it's okay. I think that it's gonna perform just fine. I'm mostly worried about the torsion aspect and the longevity of the outsole at this point. And I will say that the heel counter feels super substantial, so that might be something that could save that torsion aspect. As long as the shoe fits you really well, maybe that won't be a problem. And just in case you were curious, these aspects right here, like the little structured pieces, are reflective, as are the little dots that are there in the laces. But again, those are not. Now, one of the cooler parts of the upper is actually right here at the toe. It's this really cool feeling material. I can't tell if it's like dots applied to a thicker fabric. That's what it feels like, but it's hard for me to see it just because it's all one color. But either way, that's like a little toe bumper right there, a little buffer zone for toe drags. I think that's a slick move. Again, I don't love the boxiness of the toe. Like they're just really thick, you know what I mean? And the whole reason for that is there's this big ass rand of plastic essentially right here at the toe, and it's huge.
That's what she said. Hey.
It goes all the way to back here, like that pinky toe kind of area. So yeah, I wish that that was just tapered just a little bit better. But outside of that, so far, so good, but maybe not $200 worth of product. Now, as far as fit is concerned, they do fit true to size, so whatever you typically wear, that is what I would order. I think that they're in their second round of pre-orders right now. So for those of you guys that are interested in trying these things out, just keep that in mind. True to size, you should be good. If you're a wide footer, that's the one thing where like, there's a little bit of space in here, but I don't know if there's enough space for like super wide footers, but maybe if it's just a light, you're not super wide, but you like a little bit of splaying room, you should be okay. I will say if you have a high arch, you might not like this setup right here. It's definitely like a lot of compression right there. I think that it feels good, but it might not be for everybody. Now, with all of that being said, do we happen to have time for question of the day after you've made fun of me and gone off on weird tangents and
Yes, to bring it back around, what is your favorite Hanna-Barbera cartoon?
When we talk about Hanna-Barbera, that's like really young me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so notable works would be Tom and Jerry, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear.
It's showing that Space Ghost is one of them, so I will add that in there. Space Ghost is dope. Birdman also, that's a cool one. There's a lot of stuff that they've done. They've even done Fantastic Four. They did Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll pick that one.
That's who I was gonna pick, only because they're fun. I always like their little crossovers. I like their extended movies they would do.
Oh, wait a minute. Super Friends. Did somebody ask this or is this you?
This is me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go Super Friends, Space Ghost, Birdman, stuff like that. I will say that I am not a big fan of like the you know what I mean? Like today. It's not something where when I look at it, I'm not like, oh man, I remember, you know what I mean? It's not like Power Rangers or X-Men.
Yeah.
Something like that where I get legitimately nostalgic. Like it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I used to watch that. It's weird because during that same era, I was really heavy on Nick at Night. Like I love the old shows.
Oh yeah, I watched that too.
So Nick at Night I mess with, but the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, not so much. So like I love, you know, Mork and Mindy or Get Smart was one of my favorites. And it's so weird, Dick Van Dyke Show, Mary Tyler Moore, I love that stuff. The Bewitched and all of those things. I Dream of Jeannie. But the cartoons, I'm just kind of like, nah. The cartoons from that era, not as good as the live action sitcoms or shows. Maybe that's a hot take, I don't know.
That's a question for another day.
Probably, even though I just answered it right now. So maybe not. But a question for you, if you were gonna pick any Hanna-Barbera animated specifically, okay? So if you're gonna do that, which one's your favorite and why? And on top of that, what are your initial thoughts? Do you kind of like see this as they could be something more, or kind of like where I'm at, where it's just like, man, I think that maybe you guys spent a little bit too much on not enough, to where that $200 price point might just kill you altogether, especially when you're in direct competition with things like Nike factory clearance stores, where you can get last year's model for, man, dude, you can get steals over there, bro. You can get shoes for like 30 bucks. So that's what I'm saying, is it's very risky. But sound off below and let me know. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. With that being said, I'll catch y'all in the next one. So until then, you guys have a good one. Where did they go? Oh, they're right there. Shut up. I'm old, okay? Leave me alone. God damn. Off. You gonna leave that in there?
It's gonna be our outro.
Man.
Can't even see you in the camera. You'll just hear you.
If people don't understand, I'm fucking old, okay? I'm old now. I've been doing this for a long ass time. I don't have a trainer. I don't got anybody to help me, stretch me out and make sure that my body's right. Like, I'm old.
You gotta bend with your knees.
They don't bend really well anymore, okay? There's nothing in there.
Lift with your legs.